I made over $560,000 my last year in the United States Marine Corps. And I built this entire thing off of my 3-pillar approach that I utilized while I was closing deals in my Chief Warrant Officer's and my Master Gunnery Sergeant's office in the unit that I was a staff NCOIC of. Now, the only reason why I was able to do this is because the United States Marine Corps, amazing, okay, can be a revolving door. Obviously, I bleed scarlet, red, and gold, but the Marine Corps did end up showing me my ceiling if I were to stay active duty for 20 to 30 years. I watched guys who, I picked up E6 in under 6 years. I thought I was gonna do 30 years. I wanted to be the next, Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps, even though I was 0111, I'd be the first Pogue Sergeant Major. But I realized as I was moving up in the ranks, right, there were guys that were in for 12, 13 more years than me, barely making any more money than I was, and did not have the kind of financial stability that I wanted in my own life. So when I stumbled upon the main strategy that I was able to utilize to build a good base for me in real estate investing, I knew everything was about to change. So in this video, I'm gonna show you exactly how I went from a struggling E6 in the United States Marine Corps to making over $500,000 in my last year while I transitioned out with zero experience, zero money out of my pocket, and the exact strategies and systems I utilized so that way you can replicate this and have the same exact results. So real quick, I joined the Marine Corps at 19. Okay, I did parkour professionally. Thought I was gonna be able to jump off roofs forever. Long story short, got hurt a bunch of times. Okay, after a couple surgeries, I met a recruiter when I was at Subway. He said, hey, I'll buy you a Subway sandwich if you talk to me. I said, free Subway, let's freaking go. He ended up getting me, right? I got. I ended up joining. Best thing I ever did with my entire life. When I was in, I was no 111. Okay, I'm the supporter of all Pogues, baby. Wasn't the best at my MOS, right? But I did a lot of leadership things, right? I really loved the kind of man that the Marine Corps instilled inside of me. It really brought out my independence. I was able to do a lot of corporals courses, sergeants courses, transition, 3 meritorious promotions, multiple countries. I did admin for operations attached to Marine Security Guard Forces in Region 6. Did that for a while. From there, I met my wife, right? I met her. I did the typical Marine Corps thing. She messaged me online. We ended up falling in love. She flew across the world for me. Now that I have kids, they will never do that. That is crazy. But transitioned back over to Miramar. That's when I stumbled into real estate because my father-in-law, who was an absolute father to me, I grew up with a single mother. He was so supportive about me and kind of looking over the fence and realizing I wanted to really kind of build financial freedom, right? I wanted to generate generational wealth and I wanted to build a legacy and a great base, and he was so supportive. I stumbled into house hacking when I was still active duty. I went to a couple meetups locally. I met a couple Chief Warrant Officers drinking beers, wearing board shorts and flip-flops. I said, what do you guys do? They said real estate, and I'm not a fan of recreating the wheel, so I said, I'm gonna do that. And I started house hacking, was able to start renting out the rooms, creating some pretty sizable cash flow. And then of course, as I started doubling down with this and start seeing the returns that I was getting through just rental arbitrage, I started buying properties with my VA loan, of course. And my father-in-law, who was everything to me at that time, about 10 days before my last deployment, because I was going to do both at the same time, Marine Corps and real estate, he ended up passing of an aneurysm. It shook me and my wife's entire world up. I realized on my deployment, because I asked the Marine Corps if I can stay back because my wife is in shambles, what do you think they said? They said no. That's fine because the mission does come first, but I will say, we got 2 name tapes, right? So the first name tape, of course, the United States Marine. Second name tape that we have is our last name. And I really wanted to be able to focus on that last name because we all deal with loss, we all deal with hardships, and that was the straw that broke the camel's back for me to see that there was a life outside of this and I can operate beyond the uniform and really create the lifestyle that I wanted. And so I dove deeper into real estate, and it truly changed everything for me. So when I came back from deployment, I wanted to do this full time. I took the plunge. Had zero clue what I was going to do, started with my licensing, and then I realized what I started to be able to find that was working was way quicker than having to rely on commissions. It was way quicker than having to rely with a bunch of money and start flipping houses. This was something that I was able to implement from day one, and these are the 5 steps that I followed to now become financially free, run multiple multi-7-figure businesses, have a 30-door rental portfolio, and what I teach my Marines in my community so you can start doubling down and get the same results. Let's freaking go. Step 1, pick one thing and stick with it. I say it all the freaking time. The grass is always greener, guys, okay? Don't rely on instant gratification, okay? When it comes down to real estate, you want to be able to build a base. You want to lean into it, okay? The thing is, it's not going to happen overnight. Now, you have to put yourself, in proximity to people who are doing this as well. But you got to remember, doubling down is everything. Okay, if I'm going to hang around 4 alcoholics, I'm going to become the 5th. If I'm going to hang around 4 potheads, I'm going to become the 5th. If I'm going to hang around 4 real estate investors, I shall become the 5th. Okay, I do not want to recreate the wheel. I want you to be able to copy off this testy little ASVAB waivers because it's not rocket science. Okay, real estate is just systems, and these are systems for step 1 that you must do, okay? You cannot start deciding to be able to put 10% of your attention here, 10% of your attention here, and vice versa, and split 10% across 10 different items when you could focus 100% of your energy on one thing, and that one thing is going to be able to start capturing results very, very quickly. So now that you've weaned out power washing, you've weaned out insurance, you've weaned out underwater basket weaving, what are we focusing on? Well, the thing that changed my life and changed hundreds of Marines' others' lives is one thing and one thing only. Good old novations, baby boy. So what is a novation? It's kind of like an on-market wholesale, okay? What's a wholesale? A wholesale means you're able to work with the homeowner, right, that is an off-market, mainly in a pretty unfortunate situation through my 4Ds, death, distress, divorce, and debt. You're able to help them cater to a strategy and a solution that best fits them, where you can buy the property at, where you can put the property under contract as is, right, and you can bridge the seller between a distressful situation and a very quick solution. Usually 21 days or less. Usually the property is going to be sold as is, which means you may not be the buyer, but you are what we call the bridge. And that's extremely important to be upfront with the sellers about. Let them know, hey, right, I do have a lot of buyers who do operate in the area. They will be able to take on the risk and exposure of this property. They are investors. So if we can guarantee this price for you, I would love to be able to make sure I can then assign this property over to someone who is going to close in a timely manner. The difference between what my agreed upon price with you is to what I assign this property for is going to be my fee, right? This is a convenience fee. Now, most sellers, when you're upfront with this, they're totally cool with it. Give them exactly what they want to close quickly with no realtor fees, no closing costs, buying the property as is, no inspections, and this is a great way so that way they can rid this headache and give this to somebody who wants to assume that headache, okay? Now with a novation means, right, when you're dealing with all these sellers, you might come to a price where they say, kick rocks, that doesn't make any sense, right? That's way too low. That's totally fine. We say, you know what? I would love to be able to approve you through our 3-pillar approach. If a cash offer doesn't make sense, let's move into our equity protection program or a novation model, which just means, right, if we have a property that's worth $500,000 fully renovated, you know, and it needs $50,000 worth of work, after everything, you might offer the seller roughly $280,000 as cash to them, so that way we can move forward and close within the month. If the seller says, that is way too low, I go, well, what do you need? And if they go, I need $380,000, that's a dead wholesale deal. That is a picture-perfect novation, okay? Because I just go, okay, great. We come to an agreement at $380,000. I take over 3 things for the seller: the marketing, maintenance, and management fee, okay? Now I'm not targeting after repair value. I'm targeting current condition retail value, okay? Which is a great way to put anywhere from $1,000 to $7,000 into the home on behalf of this seller, okay? Put the property on market. Maybe you're gonna fix the fascia, clean up the landscaping, do a deep clean of the home, maybe move some stuff into a temporary storage, really help accentuate the property to work the seller into their equity, and then you get a return on your money. So if I can't target $500,000, but I could target a great agent that's local and they say, hey, if you put it out there and you do X, Y, and Z to the home, we could probably get $440,000 for the property. Okay, $60,000 below market. The seller wants $380,000. Well, after realtor fees and closing costs, let's say I'm roughly around $415,000. I get a first-time homeowner in here. The seller gets exactly what they want. I get a return on my money of everything between $380,000 to what the property sold. And roughly for us, our novation brings us about $33,000 on average in our top 3 markets. Now, the point for this is you're a convenience to these sellers, okay? The reason why this works so well is right? The biggest rebuttals I get, why don't they just fix it up themselves? That's a good question, right? Maybe they don't have access to the capital that they have, or maybe they don't have access to the equity that they have in their property, you know, because they can't get finance for it. So they can't do a home equity line of credit. They can't do a cash out refinance. They might not have anybody local to them that can help them when it comes down to these situations. Also, you know, they don't have a rich uncle, or they don't have, you know, contractor ties. They have no idea what's going to be able to take to be able to get this property in the condition that it needs to be in to pass inspection and get conventional lending. You are the bridge for that, right? When you come in here, we already have contractors licensed and bonded. I have my own capital. I come in there. I could take on the risk and the reward. I know what the neighborhood needs. So when the seller can kind of kick their feet up and I can provide a white glove service, it's a lot easier to do what is necessary to be able to control the market, put this property out there and get a sizable return on what we have and give the seller exactly what they want as well, okay? This is the fee that we have. This is the opportunity where you can provide such a solution for these homeowners. I get Christmas cards from my sellers from years ago that were able to unlock the equity that they wanted, because you got to remember one thing: residential real estate is extremely emotional, right? We're transactional sometimes. Now, Do not be predatory, do not overpromise, do not underdeliver, but when it comes down to this opportunity, yes, it's a great way to be on the same side of the closing table with that homeowner and be able to work with them to take the deal to the finish line, all right? And I've done this in 35 states all across the country. I mainly focus in 3 states in general, but we'll get to that later. Step 2, we're gonna talk about finding your deals for free. Okay, I'm all about free 99. When it comes down to marketing, the reason why I love Novations is because every great novation stems from a dead wholesale deal. So anybody who's telling you to pay thousands of dollars a month, right, for leads and capture sellers and PPC, PPL, they're lying to you. There's no need to do any of this, okay? There's 2 ways that I find about 90% of my deals in order for us to do the volume that we do. 1, dead wholesale deals, okay? Go on Instagram, go on Facebook groups, right? Go over there and say, anybody who's a wholesaler or real estate investor, or you've built rapport with the homeowner, they like you, you flirted with the old ladies, you talk war stories with the men, and they trust you and they confide in you, which is crucial because we operate on 3 things: honor, courage, and commitment, right? So when you can take these leads, capture their intimate situation and say, you know what, this might be a phenomenal novation, you can give these wholesalers who are paying for these leads $1,000 or $2,000 if they would like your creative underwriting strategy. So you don't tell them what the novation is going to be, but what you end up doing is you get free dead wholesale deals. They build rapport with the homeowner, they have to sell, but if they have a little bit more patience for more profit, you come in there, you pitch your superhero approach, which is our second pillar, which is our equity protection program, and now you're capturing every off-market dead acquisition deal, and you're giving the seller more every single time. And you're not having to pay for leads. When the property closes, just throw a little, couple bones over to the wholesaler and start filling up your pipeline just like that. Step 3, build your money network before you need it. Okay, a big thing is thesis raises. When you find a good deal, funding follows. I totally get that. But you know how easy it is to call A through Z in your context. Yes, I'm talking about Aunt Shirley, about the boy that you haven't talked to in forever, about your high school sweetheart that's still in your contacts that you think about every once in a while. That's a joke, babe. I'm lying. But listen, when it comes down to building out your money, you need to posture yourself in front of your own network, okay? That's the biggest thing that I see people messing up on. When it comes down to you and your accountability, you need to put it out there, right? Manifest this thing. You got to do this mentally and physically. I called everybody in my contacts. I had everybody do this, and the average person puts together anywhere from $300,000 to $400,000 in just their contacts. Now, this is legally compliant. This is not against SEC regulations. You're not collecting anything right now, but imagine calling everybody and going, hey, I know it's been years since we've talked. How are you doing, right? How are the kids? Blah, blah, blah. Just want to let you know I am getting involved in real estate investing. I do a lot of creative strategies. I have nothing for you right now, but I did want to see if you'd ever, be interested in wanting to lend on some opportunities. We can discuss how we can securitize this investment, make sure that you and I are both good to go. And if you are, just let me know. I could put your name down, and maybe anywhere from, $5,000 to $20,000. We can just see if this would be a good fit for a great return for you and your family. They can either say, nah, that's not really me, I'm focusing on this. Or they can go, yeah, I actually just pulled an annuity out. Or, hey, I just, inherited some money. Or, yeah, man, my savings is collecting cobwebs. If you do have something, I would love to throw 5, 10K your way. Now, imagine how many contacts you have. Imagine being able to put yourself out there, evoke the right kind of emotion, and really build a relationship with your investors, and with the opportunity of saying, hey, I am doing this now, and I want to provide you an opportunity if it makes sense. You can capture a certain amount of money that way, and now you're confident that not only you can close, but you can speak with confidence, clarity, and conviction to your sellers and to your investors. And a quick example was my very first novation deal that I had was a deal in Rosamond, California, and I needed to be able to borrow about $11,000 to get this work done on this home. To get this done, I was able to capture that from 3 of my Marines who ended up flipping the house with me, and we ended up turning that to a little over $60,000, which was more than my entire year's salary as a staff sergeant in the Marine Corps, which made me double down, and that was the exact really straw that broke the camel's back to go back, revisit my leads, and change my life through creative strategies. Step 4, okay, big thing that I see a lot of people do that's very predatory is you need to talk to sellers like they're freaking human. You know why? Because they are. Like I said before, residential real estate's extremely emotional. The thing is, though, you need to know one thing and one thing only. Write this bad boy down. People do business with people. They don't need a big giant company. They don't need to be talking to the CEO of 123 Bice Houses, okay? No, they need to talk to you. hey, I'm a Marine Corps vet, or I'm an active duty Marine who's getting involved in real estate. I work directly with an exclusive team of elite Marines, and we focus on creative strategies to help homeowners nationwide. I'd love to be able to see if you and I would be a great fit out of our 3 opportunities that you and I have to be able to work together. These are things that you need to open up the floodgates with to make them feel comfortable. You should be the Tylenol for their headache. There's no reason to try to corner a homeowner into one strategy. That's where people mess up. Because the thing is, if you're just doing wholesale, right, where you're trying to find an off-market opportunity to get $10,000 quick, the issue is when you call that seller back in 2, 3, 4 weeks, you're just hoping that their situation hasn't changed enough to where they don't want to accept your offer. To me, that's disgusting. That's why wholesaling gets a bad rap, all right? This can be done correctly. You can be done as a bridge service to your sellers. You know why? Because all they want to do is have their hand held to a solution that best fits them and their situation, right? You need to be solution-oriented. You do not need to be selling-oriented. So when it comes down to really laying out the transparency, tell your sellers, tell your agents, tell your network, okay? Operate off of integrity, right? That's one of our freaking 14 leadership traits, right? You got to be able to embody all of them. That's exactly what's going to skill you through the creative lens from 2026 onwards, I guarantee it. And before I jump into step 5, guys, if you're a Marine, you're kind of taking notes, you're liking what we got to say, I do a live training. It's a free live real estate workshop, exactly how to be able to start and scale in real estate for Marines only, okay? It's a couple hours. I usually try to condense into about 90 minutes. I do a live Q&A afterwards every single Tuesday. It's Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific. Be there or be square. That will be your appointed place of duty. And if you have any questions, you want me to elaborate on anything, or you want to gather more insight, that's where you got to be. So I'll leave the link in the description down below. Jump on in, register that bad boy, and I'll catch you this Tuesday. All right, step 5, you got to follow up until you close. The funding is in the follow-up. You think your first call is going to be the one where they go, you know what, Trev, that sounds phenomenal. Yes, Mr. Marine, let's sign right away. No. Okay, you got to build what we call FORM, family, occupation, recreation, motivation. Every single conversation, you should pull this out. Why? Because you're an active listener. You're here to solve problems. So when it comes down to FORM, when you talk to the seller, it cannot be agenda-based. Of course we want the motivation. Of course we want to know what your price is. But you know what I want to know more? Is the why, behind the how, and behind the what. So are you moving because of family? Are you relocating? Do you have children that you got to think about? Are you going through a divorce, right? Figure out what we can pull out of these conversations to really not only write these down to see if these are going to be objections in the future, but 2, to provide reassurance that we've dealt with sellers in any situation, okay? I want to know about your family. I want to know about the occupation. What do you do? Are you relocating for work? Are you retired? Were you in the service yourself? What is it that you do? Because I'd love to be able to make sure that there could be some, there could be a bridge or some talking points between you and I's life. And so that way, you know that we can continue to carry a conversation outside of just why I'm calling you. Or recreation, okay? What do you like to do for fun? Is it music festivals, right? Do you like to jet ski? Is it going to your kids' soccer games? Why is this so important? Because, guys, when I call back that second and third time, what am I going to call back for? I'm going to call Tim and I'm going to go, Tim, what's going on, man? Hey, how did your son do on Sunday for a soccer game? Was that awesome? Oh, he won? You ended up taking that boat out? I know you said you wanted to hit the jet skis, brother. Was that awesome? Right? Things like that where you can start talking, catch up. Hey, I ended up just passing by my lake right now. Gosh, I can't wait to grab a boat, man. My wife's been wanting one forever. Talk for 5, 10, 15 minutes. You guys are going to get to a point where you do the whole chuckle. Hey, Tim, just wanted to give you a ring again because I wanted to talk about, the next steps moving forward between you and I. Now, you realize what you're doing with the seller, right? Not only are you solving their situation, or not only are you solving their problems, but you're making sure that they know the number one priority is that people do business with people. This is not fake. If you do not want to talk to homeowners, you don't want to gauge conversation, you're not excited to be able to help provide solutions, you're in the wrong industry. If you can evoke emotion, you understand that there's a real person on the other side of this phone. It's not just, the 412th call that you made, right? This is somebody in an intimate situation that you're going to be following up with. Then I guarantee you the seller is going to build rapport with you, have a great connection, right? And realize that they might want to take a little less because you operate with integrity. You didn't push them down the finish line, right? This is where residual business will come in by doing it correctly. And of course, the last one is motivation. Why do they want to sell? How can you solve their issues? And by defining how you can solve it, you can put them in one of our strategies, right? Which is our 3-pillar approach: wholesale, equity protection, or equity split. I'm not going to dive into the equity split. That one averages us anywhere between $104,000 to $200,000, depending on the state that we provide this in. That one's a lot of fun, but for this context, we're giving you 5 things that you can do today so you can start changing your life through real estate investing as a Marine. Okay, and lastly, guys, why are Marines built for this? Well, I'll tell you right now. right? I've ran communities in the thousands. I've been able to do deals nationwide. I will say, Marwalk, the Marine Wealth Operations Command, and our programs inside of this have been lightning in a freaking bottle, okay? Marines' work ethic, right? Their drive, their compassion, their leadership, right, has been able to put them as some of the best entrepreneurs I've ever involved myself with, right? And the fact that we're so supportive about what we do is amazing, okay? Like I said, the Marine Corps can be a revolving door, but the relationships I've been able to build through my command, right, translating this and supporting me into my real estate and ventures, right, and the ones that didn't, makes you realize that, you know, as we move forward through this, we got to strip the ego away, we got to strip the pride away, and we're always going to come with our hand up and not our hand out. But the thing is, I always say this, and this is something that Marines know, and this is what they take in order to attack the freaking hill, is that imperfect action is better than perfect inaction, okay? You do not need to know everything, okay? Through this video, you might have captured 10%, but that's 10% more than you knew yesterday, which means if you start doing, you know, your research, you start getting more and more involved with me, the base we're building nationwide with Marines everywhere, exposing themselves to this, creating anywhere from $30,000 to $70,000 quarters, right? And changing their life through financial literacy with the vehicle of real estate. You got to remember something, is that we're different. We're cut from a different cloth. We own the title. We own what was put in our hand, that EGA. The Rolexes and the cars and the travel and the trips, all of that is a byproduct off of one thing and one thing only: the trust that you build and the work ethic that you instill in your entrepreneurship journey. Every single Marine that has wanted to dive into this has been successful if they can focus 110% of what they are doing, right? And put that same work ethic, that same energy into pouring into this industry. You will go out there and you will crush 99.9% of other civilians because of what you know you've been able to accomplish yourself at such a young age, or even after 20, 30 years in the service. All of that, the civilians do not have that type of work ethic, that type of self-accountability, that type of drive to be able to make sure that they can be successful to change their lives, their wives' lives, their children's lives, and their great-grandchildren's lives. That's the generational wealth that we're building, and that's the kind of legacy that we want to be able to leave behind for every single crane eater that I come in contact with. So that's the exact system, right? From going from a struggling E6 to being able to make $500,000 to now being able to pretty much double my income every single year for the last 7 years, all stems from me doing one thing and one thing only. That's starting, okay? And that's failing forward into an industry where I still don't know everything about. But that's why your network is your net worth, right? If you're a Marine, you're sick of tire kickers, you want to change your life, okay, you got to come into a community where the foundation is just built for freaking devil dogs like you. All right, that's exactly what we have. All the way from our First to Fight Founders Partnership, where we not only curate leads, we teach you everything, we give you these opportunities, and I fund everything for you, all the way down to just our annual membership, where you truly could come in here, ask my investors, ask hundreds of Marines nationwide, ask, you know, my partners how to get involved with this through our live classes Monday through Saturday. You're gonna be positioned into a culture where we do one thing and one thing only, and that's make Marines financially free. And once again, if you wanna know how I break everything down, you want more in-depth understanding of this, you wanna talk to me, you wanna ask questions to me and my community, I do a live Tuesday every single Tuesday. Jump on this bad boy. It's never not going to be live, okay? Because I want to pour into your cup the same way you want to pour into my cup, and my appointed place of duty is here because that's my importance. That is how I lead, train, and mentor Marines all across the country. So I'll leave the link in the description. Reserve a seat. You can ask anything that you want because we serve together, which means we should earn together. I will see you in there. All right, do it for Chesty, baby.